So in this video, we'll be looking at reptile evolution, kind of their origins and how they have changed over time. So first, we're going to look at a group called the Reptilomorphs. Uh, these evolved from a common ancestor with amphibians probably 300 million years ago or so in the late Carboniferous period. And these groups were called reptilomorphs, which just kind of literally means in the shape of a reptile. They had an amniotic egg, which allowed them to move further from land, and that led to the first reptile, which I have a name for, Elonimus, which is the first fossil that we have of reptiles that would be considered a true reptile. And I have this picture of Pangaea just to kind of show you what's going on. So Pangaea forms way, 300 billion years ago or longer ago. And when Pangaea forms, all of the coastlines that had existed before disappear. And so all these animals that had depended on the coast all of a sudden are in the middle of a vast desert. And so the animals that are able to live apart from water are going to survive. And this is when you have a lot of amphibians become extinct and many of the reptiles start to uh, take the scene, so to speak. So for reptiles, there are three distinct skull shapes that we're going to look at. There's the Synapsid shape, and that is this one here, Synapsid shape. And it has to do with the openings that are found in the skull. And with this particular skull, there are no openings. See, in this skull here, you have two, and this one you have one. This is the eye hole, so it doesn't count. So there's only one group of reptiles that live today that are napsids, and these are turtles. Then there are diapsids. This is the two here, diapsids. And these are modern reptiles and birds that have these two openings. And then this group down here are called the synapsids, which only have one opening. And these reptiles are extinct now. They share a common ancestor, however, with mammals. And so mammals currently have skulls with one opening in them, and it's at the back, so you don't have to like find it. But the reptiles, those reptiles went extinct, and then the mammals came from that group. So let's talk a little bit about these different groups of reptiles. So in the Permian period, there was a group of reptiles that became the most dominant tetrapods on Earth. The synapsids were actually the first group of megafauna. Megafauna is a term used for giant animals, and these are when you have animals like the Dimetrodon is an important animal from this period and is a synapsid, and it has close links with ancestral mammals as well. And they split into two distinct groups here. I don't think I have a picture for these. There's the Dimetrodon. So this is something that you're familiar with. There's the shadow of a person to help you get an idea on size here. You have little ones and big ones, but this is that same shape that you're familiar with. And the skull is different. You can see even there's the opening, kind of like we have our temporal opening, next to the side of your heads. Um, that's the same opening that they have. And so here's the two groups that were divided into. In the Permian lizards or the Permian reptiles, you have the archosaurs and the lepidosaurs. The archosaurs are things like crocodiles, turtles, and dinosaurs. And see, these are your most primitive reptiles. And then the lepidosaurs, these are going to be your lizards, kind of what we have around today, lizards and snakes. So next you have the Mesozoic reptiles. This is when we typically think of dinosaurs. This is what we think of, this Mesozoic time period. And this is where there was the Great Extinction Event, which, this is one of many hundreds of pictures that show the uh, asteroid or comet or whatever coming to the Earth, and T-Rex is running away screaming. There's many pictures out there like that. And so there was a great loss of the megafauna in this particular time period. Most of the synapsids are going to disappear, and they were replaced by the archosaurs. And this is the pre-Great Extinction, um, replaced by archosaurs. And these were mostly the dinosaurs and the pterosaurs, which are the flying ones, and then the crocodiles, obviously, which are still around today. This is known as the Age of Reptiles. And from this group, let's see, I have, I think, a picture here too. Yes. From this group, uh, another group called the theropods emerged, and this is where we're going to have the first birds. And so dinosaurs, those archosaurs, are going to be closely related to modern day birds. And so you've probably heard that birds are living dinosaurs. Well, that's where that idea comes from. Dinosaurs are more closely related to birds than they are like lizards and snakes today. And then you have the Cenozoic reptiles. Cenozoic is the era that we're currently living in. So you have this other large extinction event that occurs between Cenozoic and Mesozoic, and that's the one that you typically see the pictures of up there. And only sea turtles and crocodiles remain from the large reptile groups, and the only dinosaurs that survived were the small beaked birds that made it. And then the large beak birds and the mammals are going to fill all the available niches. And in this particular early in Cenozoic, you have birds that are the largest animals on Earth running around killing everything. And it's much later. I have that picture for some reason. Much later, you have a group of reptiles that are known as the squamates, which are going to be that lizard group that was kind of a small group in the past, but during now particular, this is going to be the major group that thrives after the Mesozoic, and they become the dominant reptile group that we see today. All the older groups like turtles and crocodiles and such are holdovers from past, whereas these squamates are the most successful group today.